Thanks so much for staying with us here on KVUE Plus for some special coverage tonight. We're going more in depth with senior reporter Tony Polhetsky after he broke a story today about District Attorney José Garza's secret request for public money to put more security around his home. Now, we brought you the story a little bit ago on KVUE News at 6, and to just recap, Tony discovered that the county approved moving $115,000 to the DA's office for Garza's security. But now the county is dodging transparency about that expense. And senior reporter Tony Polhetsky joins us now. And Tony, I want to start with this. Has the district attorney or Travis County issued any statements since that story first aired?
No. Keep in mind that we have been working on this story for some weeks. We did have a series of initial phone calls with the district attorney, but after that, Quita, we did not hear subsequently from the district attorney or from the district attorney's office. This morning, prior to airing and publishing our report, we reached out to the district attorney once more with a list of bulleted items, Quita, that we plan to report and asked his comment. We gave the district attorney's office a deadline, but we did not hear from them by our deadline. I do want to say with regard to the county itself, though, we did also similarly, we've been in touch with commissioners over some period of time. We reached out to the spokesman for the county earlier today, and they did issue a statement, the county spokesman did, essentially affirming that they take security of all elected officials and county employees very seriously, but it was not a statement, Quita, that really provided new details about this particular transaction that we've reported on today.
Now, Tony, after watching this story, it seems like each of the commissioners have a different story about why this was done.
Well, we went to, of course, the officials themselves because it is their vote that put this transition into motion. And so we went to each of them individually over the past several weeks. And to your point, Quita, their answers were really all over the map. Commissioner Margaret Gomez talked about being in an executive session when the district attorney made some request. We did also talk to Commissioner Ann Howard. She established for us and acknowledged for us that some of the funding for the district attorney's office was in fact for the district attorneys to secure his home. But the others were less forthcoming about this information, really citing security as an issue to not provide additional information. But at the same time, some of the experts we talked to, the government transparency experts, they talk about the need to really draw a balance, a better balance, according to them, between security and keeping public officials safe, but also, Quita, the transparency of this matter, and at the same time, the expenditure of taxpayer funds, and drawing a balance between both of those sometimes competing interests, but at the same time, the experts we talked to really establishing that at the same time, the expenditure of taxpayer money really does require a level of transparency. These are not private funds in private industry.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of people might say, oh, $115,000, that doesn't seem like a lot of money in the long run, but it's not really about the amount of money in this case, is it?
Well, there are two issues. There is the transparency issue that we have talked about, but also this raises questions, and as we established in our reporting, there are multiple threats, and there's an increase in threats that officials in elected positions in Travis County, and for that matter across the country, are facing with regard to increased threats in this political climate that we are in. But as of today, Travis County has no real authority and no real person or entity really tracking all of this. Well, they track it, but deciding who gets security, who gets what security, how all of that unfolds. And so there's a question about why José Garza's threats rose to this level when we now know that there are other elected officials, particularly judges, who have received threats, including death threats, in recent months and recent years.
And that actually brings me to my next question. I know a lot of people might remember Julie Kasurik, Judge Julie Kasurik. She was shot in her own driveway at her own home. Did she ever receive any money from the county in regards to her own safety and security?
Not prior to this assassination attempt, which was widely covered in 2015 and in the subsequent years. People probably remember that a man who was a defendant in her court went to her home and shot her nearly fatally in her own driveway. Quita, in the aftermath of that, Judge Julie Kasurik was escorted for many months by a Travis County Sheriff's deputy. That continued for many months, frankly, after that assassination attempt. Judge Kasurik did receive a $500,000 settlement, but that was not necessarily for her home security or for her security. That $500,000 was to potentially fend off a lawsuit that she might be filing, a claim, excuse me, that she might be filing about the mishandling of a threat in the days and weeks prior to her being shot, as you mentioned, in her own driveway. The county, according to evidence that was produced, did not do enough to alert her about that threat and to potentially stop that threat prior to that defendant carrying it out in 2015. So,
Tony, could that settlement actually be a motive for this $115,000 allocation for security for José Garza?
Look, I think the fact that a judge in our community was shot at her own home certainly gives rise to an increased concern among local officials who were in office at the time. That yes, because of that, there is certainly a level of seriousness that all of these threats are taken with regard to threats that have happened subsequent to her assassination attempt back then. I think there is a heightened awareness and a heightened sensitivity to that.
Now, all right, we have the DA getting $115,000 for his own personal security. To your knowledge, do you know of any other local officials getting taxpayer funding like this for their own personal security?
Our reporting, again, over several weeks really establishes that this is outside what is standard for state lawmakers, for other elected officials here in Travis County, as well as federal judges and federal prosecutors. And I think that as we were going about our work and doing our reporting, that is one of the things that really stood out to us, is that there are other officials in other threatened positions, and they do not receive this kind of security enhancement in the same way that the local district attorney here received.
And I just have one more quick question. Do we know what the threats were that DA Garza allegedly received?
Not totally, and it's not for a lack of effort on our part. The district attorney's office did not provide to us all of the possible threats that agency received. What we do know is that the Travis County Sheriff's Office, which is sort of the repository for threats against county officials, they tell us that they received 2 threats over the past couple of years involving the district attorney. One of those was a letter that was reportedly mailed to his home. They forwarded that letter to the U.S. Postal Inspector for investigation. The other involved what they considered concerning communication, an email that the county received about the district attorney. But Guido, according to the sheriff's office, it did not rise to the level of a formal threat or lead to an investigation.
All right, I know you'll be peeling back the layers on this story.
Absolutely.
Senior reporter Tony Bilhetsky, thank you so very much. We appreciate you.
You bet.
And we are going to continue covering this issue about that expenditure and the county's transparency. And for now, you can find Tony's full report on our website, kvu.com, and we'll see you back here for the news at 10.